pod bay doors.
You all know me. You know what I do for a living. Well, today, I'm introducing the Cinematic Traveler, a movie podcast YouTube channel hosted by some college boy with city hands and counting money his whole life. Well, I work for a living. Why has he got me behind this microphone? I need to be out there catching sharks. Like that big, great white with black eyes, doll's eyes. You know him. You all call him Jaws. Well, on this episode, you're going to hear about Jaws. You're going to get to play trivia. And you're going to get the sexiest host in all the podcast YouTube universe. You're going to get the whole damn thing. Now, before we start, why don't you put a barrel in the follow or subscribe button? Why don't you leave comments? Leave a review. It's the least you could do for this entertainment. Hoopa! Quit playing with yourself and let's get this show started. That's right. It's me, Chris, the Cinematic Traveler. And we are here to talk about the 50th anniversary of one of the most influential, biggest, most important films in cinematic history. And that is, of course, Jaws, directed by Senor Spielbergo, or you know him as Steven Spielberg. And I just want to take a moment to thank our celebrity, poorly impersonated guest. Yes, Captain Quint, thank you for that legendary introduction to the show that will be long remembered. Or hopefully, maybe not. I don't know. It depends on how it turned out. But anyway, I'm so excited to be talking to you about this movie. I do love Jaws. Who doesn't love Jaws? It's one of my all-time favorite movies. And of course, like I said in my last episode, every podcaster or YouTube that has a movie channel is doing some kind of Jaws episode. Like I said, this is the 50th anniversary, so we do have to celebrate it. I thought I would do something a little bit different than what I normally do. And for my regular viewers, if you do watch this show, you'll notice I am decked out for the occasion. But in this episode, I am going to tell you the 10 things that make Jaws great. And if you are a normal listener or viewer, you know I like to do my trivia contest. Well, this one's going to be a little different. There is going to be trivia throughout this episode. And much like that pesky great white shark, you never know when it's going to appear. So you'll have to listen for the warning signs. And you can play along. I'll give you a shout out in the next episode for whoever gets some right. I'll give you one, even if you just get one right. I don't care, because we're just here to have fun and talk about a great movie. But none of these are going to count towards our contest. So you regular viewers and listeners, you have been warned. So, of course, Jaws came out in 1975. As I mentioned, directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the novel Jaws, written by Peter Benchley. So, without being too transparent, I will say I did not see the original release of Jaws in the movie theaters. I was too young. Oh no. But if you are of a certain age, close to mine, before VCRs became such a force in home entertainment, you know that a lot of movies either stayed in movie theaters for a very long time or they would be re-released. And I do seem to remember watching Jaws in the movie theater as a kid. I probably would say it was probably a re-release before Jaws 2 came out. They liked to do that back in the day. They used to do that with Star Wars. I know before Empire Strikes Back, they would release Star Wars and all that. So I have seen it in movie. I've seen it in movie theater since, and I'm sure it'll be playing again, and I will go see it again because it is one of the greatest movies of all time. So come with me now and journey to Amity Island in the summer of 1975 as poor young Chrissy takes that naked nighttime plunge and starts this whole epic adventure off. So let's talk about the 10 things that make Jaws great.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
So before I start, I will tell you these are in no particular order. I'll try to group some of them together. I'm not going to go into any great detail with some of these. This is just kind of a fun episode to celebrate the movie. But pay attention, because that trivia is out there lurking in the deep waters. So the first thing that makes Jaws great is that, well, let's just put it in historic perspective. This is the first blockbuster They called it that because back in the day, you couldn't go on your phone and you couldn't just pick a seat. You had to stand in line for the movie tickets. So they would stand in lines that were so long they would wrap around the block. And that's became the term blockbuster. Plus, it was released in the summer and it made so much money. In fact, at the time, it became the highest grossing film of all time until a few years later in 1977, when a certain little independent sci-fi film took that over. But we'll talk about that film some other time. But at that moment, it was king of the box office. And it got studio executives to start thinking, perhaps we should make big epic films and release them in the summertime when everybody is off school and there's lots of vacation and they can go sit in a nice movie theater when it's 110,000 degrees. Now, some out there may deride this film because it did invent the summer blockbuster, and movies, they will say, were on a downward slide after that. I disagree, but I grew up in mostly the 80s, so I was partial to the big summer event films, and there's no other movie that we can thank for that than other than Jaws. So that is the first thing that makes Jaws great. Now, the second thing that makes Jaws so did you hear that?
Shark! The shark!
Oh my god, no! It's time! It's time for that trivia monster! So this is your first opportunity to get a question right. Some of these are easy, some of them will be very challenging. I will tell you where I got these at the end of the show here, but there's multiple choice, but I'm not going to give you the multiple choice. You're going to have to work for it. So our first trivia question of the show is, which word does Ellen Brody tell her husband he's not pronouncing correctly? Which word does Ellen Brody tell her husband that he is not pronouncing correctly? Oh, that's kind of easy. I think that's a pretty easy one. All right. Where were we before that trivia fin popped out of the water? Oh, that's right. We are moving into the next thing, or the second thing, however you want to put it, that makes Jaws great. And since we're talking about things this movie launched, let's talk about whose career it launched. And that, of course, is Steven Spielberg, Senor Spielbergo, for all of you Simpson fans out there. This was only his third film that he directed, and it catapulted him up into the upper echelon of Hollywood directors, plus everything that came after it that we'll get to in a second. But he literally came out of nowhere. He had done some TV work and some lesser known movies before this hit. But of course, once this movie made a shit ton of money, he was off like a rocket. But not just because of the money. Let's give him credit where credit is due. This is early Spielberg, which we all love because he had a little mean streak in him back in the day. And if you don't believe me, he did have the shark eat a dog in this movie. And a kid in a bloody fashion. So yeah, it was a PG movie too. That's crazy. Anyway, this is an exceptional directing job. I know we've all seen it. Come on, you know it is. It pulls you in. The way he uses not seeing the shark, again, something we're going to get to later, to heighten the suspense of this film is absolutely incredible. Of course, he was forced to do that, but that was a clever move for him to make. Also, putting this movie in the actual ocean, while again, we'll get to some of the issues they had with that. It was a big step outside of the Hollywood norm in which they filmed water or ocean movies in big, water-filled tubs out in Hollywood and all that stuff to make it easier on everybody. I don't know if he could go back in time, if he would do the same thing, but it did lend an authenticity to this film, as well as filming in Martha's Vineyard up in Massachusetts. That's my really bad New England accent, and making this feel like such an American movie at the same time. So it's centered around July 4th. You have an amazing cast we'll get to later. He gets exceptional performances out of everyone, and he has just some incredible cinematography. Come on. The zoom dolly shot on the beach of Roy Scheider when the shark eats poor little Alex Kintner is legendary. Of course, the script is legendary as well. Again, it's based off the novel by Peter Benchley, who also did a draft of the script. But if you know any of the lore, the behind-the-scenes lore, there were so many hands involved. Most notably, Carl Gottlieb. He did most of the work on there, but you had Steven Spielberg himself interjecting some pages, as well as John Milius. Hell, even Robert Shaw got a crack at some stuff. And of course, Spielberg allowed his 3 lead actors to improvise and ad-lib as they could throughout the movie. Just an exceptional feat of direction, and it was only his third movie. Should I go on? I mean, after this, his career just took off. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. 1941, which has a little parody scene of this movie. I know a lot of people don't like that movie. I think it's kind of dumb and funny, but that's just me. And then you get into E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jurassic Park. Oh, I mean, how many epic movies have you watched that were directed by Steven Spielberg? That's why people of my generation, we flock to his movies no matter what he puts out. So, and again, just one of the great things that came out of Jaws. And since we are talking about the direction and the things that Steven Spielberg had to do because of the issues they had behind the scenes, I'm going to bring up one here that I really like. And I know this one's going to be a bit silly. This one is those damn barrels. Those barrels in the water were genius. They're scary as hell. Every time they pop up, you just are on the edge of your seat because you know what's coming. And just using those and figuring out a way to reveal the shark when they really couldn't. It was a stroke of brilliance. I actually have from, I think it's the Daily Jaws show. They have a store and they sell all kind of versions of that barrel. I got a keychain with one of those barrels on it. Every time I see those barrels pop out of that water, even as many times as I've seen the movie, I'm on the edge of my seat because, wait, what?
Shark!
Oh no! It's another trivia. He came out of nowhere. Another trivia attack. You just never know where that creature's going to pop up at. All right, this one is really easy, especially if you are watching this show currently. So, what does Chief Brody tell Hendrix to paint on the signs that he wants to be put out on the Amity Island beach? What does Chief Brody tell Hendrix to paint on the signs that he wants posted on the Amity Island beaches? It's very easy. It's very easy. Okay, so where was I?
Jesus H. Christ.
Oh, that's right. I was talking about the barrels. I know it's a silly one. It's not going to take me long on that one. I just love those barrels. I just love them. It's just an ingenious way to show that shark's around. So let's go ahead and talk about the next great thing about Jaws. I think this is number 4. Let's go with, this is a great introduction to horror. As I mentioned, this is rated PG. So many a child was traumatized after the first fucking 5 minutes of that movie. I can tell you I lived in Florida for most of my childhood, and that movie is always in the back of your head. But this is an excellent gateway into horror, to become a horror fan, because it's not too graphic. It is scary. It does keep you on the edge of your seat, but it also has a great mix of comedy and adventure and stuff like that. So I will say, uh-oh, not again. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Shark! The shark!
And I know these are coming fast and furious. That's how things like great white sharks and trivia about movies about great white sharks come at you. You won't know until it's there. With this one, when Quint tells everyone at the town meeting that he will catch and kill the shark for $10,000, what does he say they'll get for that price? Again, when Quint tells everyone at the town meeting that he will catch and kill the shark for $10,000, what does he say they'll get for that price? Nothing too crazy difficult, I don't think, at the moment. Where was... Oh, yeah. I'm going to say that a lot throughout this show. But, yeah, this is an excellent gateway. If you can get through Jaws and you like that excitement and you like the horror element of it, especially if you're young or new to horror movies, it'll kind of give you that itch that you want to scratch with the next big horror movie, which probably would be like Halloween or Friday the 13th or, something like that, to where you're just delving deeper into the wonderful, wonderful world of horror. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of Spielberg's earlier films, and as I mentioned, he had a little mean streak back in the day. He was not afraid to go for the throat when he needed to. We all remember this scene where you were on the edge of your seat because Hoopa goes for that night dive at Ben Gardner's boat, and that head pops out. I'm sure that everybody in that movie theater in 1975, their skeletons leapt out of their skin when that head popped out. So yeah, this movie is a great introduction into the horror genre for those who might be a little squeamish or might be new to it. or too young. Can you be too young to like horror movies? Okay, so we're moving into, I believe this is number 5 on our list. Again, these aren't in any particular order. I did try to group them together a little bit, but I'm going to go with the cast. I mentioned that with Spielberg and his direction and what he got out of this cast, but this is an incredible cast. One of them I'm going to talk about a lot because he's one of my favorite characters in any film, in the history of any film that I have ever seen, probably ever. Let's just say ever. But we'll start with Roy Scheider as, of course, our hero of the story, Chief Martin Brody, who has just moved to Amity Island from New York, and he's trying to get used to the simple life, as it were. He's used to a lot of chaos and stuff, so that's why he moved his family to Amity Island for a little peace. And then all of a sudden, here comes this great white shark that he has no ability to deal with. He has no idea how to deal with it. Also, he has a phobia of the water. He doesn't like to swim. And as Hooper says to him, it doesn't make sense for a man who is afraid of water to live on an island, to which Brody responds, "It's only an island when you look at it from the water." But yeah, Chief Brody, he's your everyman. Roy Scheider, especially 70s, 80s Roy Scheider, he played the everyman very well. Of course, he was in The French Connection, Sorcerer, Blue Thunder, all kind of stuff back in the day. Great actor. And he makes this role iconic, of course. He's got that sense of humor, but he's also very scared of what's out there in the water, much less the water. But yeah, he's scared of that shark. And if you see the chief of police scared of something as an audience member, you are naturally scared of that as well. When Spielberg became attached to Jaws, I think Roy Scheider ran into Spielberg at a party, and he knew of the movie and wanted to be in it. And he started asking Spielberg who he was casting, and Spielberg said, well, they just started. And he asked if there was anyone he recommended, and Roy said, yes, me. And that's how he got the part. Of course, the second famous actor in the big three, and this will tip off on the section that I am going to talk exclusively about one performance and one character. But this one is Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and we will ignore the fact that he is a crazy old man, but he was a very popular actor throughout the 70s, 80s, early into the 90s. He's an Oscar winner, and for the longest time, like I said, through the 70s and 80s, if you saw his name on a film, you were interested to see it. You knew you were going to get a good performance. Of course, he follows this film up with another Spielberg film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where he gets to play the everyman. Here he plays the educated college boy who's been counting money all his life. And he is he's from the Institute, the Marine Institute, and he's here to figure out what kind of shark they got and how they can kill it. He can also do an autopsy, and he can tell you this was no boating accident. This was no barracuda. This wasn't even Jack the Ripper. But he's great in this movie. He's actually a departure from the character in the novel. The character in the novel is more of a tall, studly surfer dude kind of guy with blonde hair and stuff like that. And Dreyfuss is none of those things. But again, much like Roy Scheider, he plays the comedy very well. He can ad-lib with the best of them. But you know when he's scared, and this guy's a shark expert, but when he's scared, you know that shit's going to go bad. Yeah, I mean, when he's getting into the cage and he's like, I got no spit, you're just like, oh my God, Hooper's going to die. We all love Hooper. And he's going to die. And his clashes with Quint through the second half of the movie are priceless. I mean, that's cinema gold, just the way they went back and forth at each other. But they learned to have a respect with each other from the famous scar sharing scene. Show me the way to go home. But yes, Richard Dreyfuss does give an excellent performance. Interesting little tidbit, but after the movie was made and they were going on their promotional tours, Richard Dreyfuss said that he did not like his performance. And I think he told one of the interviewers not to blame Steven Spielberg when this movie fails. This is all on the studio because they put so much pressure on him and all that. And then turn around and the movie was a huge success. So that shows what these actors know. I don't know why you all listen to them like you do. They don't know anything. And if you just keep moving down the cast, I think everybody in this movie gives an amazing performance. You've got Lorraine Gary as Martin Brody's wife, Ellen, who always seems to have his back throughout the film. She worries about him, but she's no pushover herself. And she is very important to the film because she is the connection to that family life, that normal life that Chief Brody and her were searching for on Amity Island, and that's what keeps him connected to the reasons he's out here chasing after that shark and risking his life. And then I guess we'll wrap it up with Murray Hamilton as Mayor Vaughn, who, bless his heart, he is a bit Weasley, but he's just trying to keep the city open because they make all of their money during the summer when all the tourists show up, especially around the 4th of July. So that seems to be the most important thing to him, and he doesn't really believe that... Wait, what?
Shark!
Oh, here it comes again. The trivia shark. I swear to you, I have not even been putting chum in the water. He just knows where we are as we go through this journey into Jaws. This one might be a little bit of a challenge for some of you out there. Which type of shark is caught by the fishermen who believe they have caught the killer shark? Again, which type of shark is caught by the fishermen who believe they have caught the killer shark? I can give you a hint. One of the fishermen, when he's told what kind of shark it is, goes, "A what?" But yeah, Murray Hamilton, I always feel bad for his character because, like I said, he's not really evil. He's just putting money ahead of everybody else until it's too late, until I think his son almost gets eaten by the shark in the pond, or at least is in the water with the shark in the pond, and then he has to react. Plus, he has to wear those god-awful suits. Although I will say, the one sports jacket with the little anchors on it, that's kind of groovy. I think I could pull that one off. But yes, he is a character that you don't really hate, but you kind of do, but you kind of understand him. So I think Murray Hamilton adds a little more to him than just, mustache twirling villain. He's a very sympathetic character by the end. So let's talk about the next thing or person that makes Jaws great. And I gave him his own section because, as I've mentioned, I think he's one of the best characters in all of cinema. That, of course, is Quint, played by the legendary Robert Shaw. I mean, how much can you add to what's already been said about Quint? Just amazing. From that introduction where he drags his fingernails down the chalkboard and he gives that speech about it's going to cost you. You can either pay now or be on welfare in the winter. He's just so great. He's so great. And Spielberg is so wise. It's much like the shark. He just gives you a little taste of Quint right there at that meeting. And then Quint kind of goes away for a while. And then the second half of the movie, he steals the movie. Robert Shaw is having a blast with this character. He kind of knows what type of movie this is. I will say there is some alcohol involved in his performance from time to time. But, just him bickering with Hooper. Hooper, quit playing with yourself, Hooper. Or one of my favorites, Cage goes in the water. You go in the water. Sharks in the water. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. I just love the way he is constantly antagonizing Hooper. And he's trying to help Brody. He tries to take him under his wing the best way that Quint can possibly do that. But once he sort of gets in his Captain Ahab mode, he isn't listening to anybody. He's going to kill that damn shark. Unfortunately for him, the shark at least wins the battle with Quint. But Robert Shaw is great. Like I said, he's having a great time. He brings so much life. He's so over the top. He's so funny and he's so menacing and he's just so damn determined to kill that shark. And I mean, come on, who can forget the great USS Indianapolis speech? A little behind the scenes. I know we haven't gotten there yet, but he did that one first. He did that one drunk because he went to Spielberg and he said, maybe I should do this drunk since the character's drunk. And it came out terrible. And he came back the next day and he apologized and he did it sober and he nailed it. And it's one of those scenes, again, keep you on the edge. You think the shark can keep you on the edge of your seat. Quint can do that just the way he delivers that story. We delivered the bomb. And I make no apologies for my fandom of Quint. I watch Jaws when it's on because of Quint. I mean, it's a great movie all around, but god damn, when he comes in the movie, it's just perfection. Uh-oh. I think...
Shark!
Here it is again. He came back fast that time. He must have heard me talking about Quint. Comes our next trivia question. Are you paying attention? How you think you're doing so far? This one's a little more challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. What does Hoopa offer Brody whilst they are out on his boat at night looking for the shark? Again, What does Hoopa offer Brody whilst they are out on his boat at night looking for the shark? And I'm not gonna lie to you, I may have miscounted my trivia and my my list. They may not be coordinated with each other.
Jesus H.
Yes,
Christ.
I know. All right. So, I mean, what else do I have to say about Quint and Robert Shaw? I mean, it's an amazing performance. You love it. I love it. Everybody loves it. That's the man in this movie. He is the man. When that shark kills him, oh, it breaks my heart every time. You know, I still watch that movie and I'm like, please, Quint, roll the other way. Get off the boat. Do something. And for, I don't even know what number we're on now, but the next great thing about Jaws, and that is, since we're talking about Quint's death, that would be the kills. As I mentioned earlier, Spielberg, he does have a mean little streak in his early career. And you get some pretty nasty kills in this movie. Not particularly gory. Although when we get to the behind the scenes stuff, there were some changes that were made. But they are not pulling any punches with who they kill with this damn shark. And it starts off, of course, with Chrissy, this beautiful young lady who jumps into the water butt naked, much to many a young man's delight. However, why she goes out into the ocean in the middle of the night, I will never know. On a brief aside, as I mentioned, I grew up in Florida. My dad took me and we learned how to scuba dive. And one of the classes, you had to go out and do a night dive to get certified for like some advanced thing or whatever. I will tell you, being out in the ocean in scuba gear at night is one of the scariest things that I have ever gone through in my life, and I will never, ever do it again. So I don't know why she's going out there for fun, but she paid the price for it at one of the most brutally unseen kills in cinematic history. I mean, you don't ever see that shark eat any part of her body, but the way she just gets thrown around and thrashed around that water, and she hits the buoy, and she thinks she's safe, and then it drags her back the other way. Oh, just, I mean, you know what kind of movie you're in for at that point, and you know Spielberg's not fucking around. And of course you get Alex Kintner, a child out on his raft who meets his demise because his mother just couldn't say no. His extremely elderly mother. There's a whole story behind that mother and child that I need to know about at some point. But yeah, if she'd have just told him no, he'd be alive. So really it's her fault. Or maybe it's Alex. Maybe he's just such a spoiled little brat. She just couldn't say no. She didn't want to put up with his shit. But no, I mean, when you have a kid get killed in a movie, oh yeah. And it's, I don't want to say it's graphic, but it's got some blood spraying out, and the way it's shot where that shark kind of rolls over when it bites into him, it's just brilliant, and it makes you terrified of that water. And when that camera goes under the water and you see that shark POV, you know something bad's going to happen. And then you get the one where Michael Brody is out in the pond where his dad thinks it's safe with his buddies, and they're sailing in their little boat. And I think he's a lifeguard maybe or something. He comes out to kind of help them because I think they're stuck with something, a knot or something. So he's rowing over there to help them when the shark attacks. And again, and Spielberg, I miss that Spielberg. I miss that mean little shit. But way he films that where the guy like comes out of the water and he grabs on his boat, and you see from the above view the shark coming up, and it takes him under, and then you just have that one severed leg falling to the bottom of the ocean. It's just fucking nasty. Oh my God, just a great kill. After that, you don't really get much more, I don't think, right? They killed that, and then the last kill of the movie from the shark is Quint, which is brutal. It's sort of apropos for what they're doing there with the whole Moby Dick theme with him, the Captain Ahab. He's going to get his white whale. Well, this is a great white shark, but yeah, he had to meet his demise that way. But as I mentioned earlier, it always breaks my heart. I could have just done a Quint movie. And speaking of kills, what's going on?
Shark!
It's the trivia shark again. I should have called it that from the beginning of the episode, but I'm not going to go back and re-record this thing, so just play along. You get what you pay for, might I remind you. All right, so our next trivia question. How do y'all, again, I hope y'all are doing well. Hope you're keeping up, or if you're just answering a couple of them, let me know. Have some fun. Jesus Christ, that's what Jaws is. It's just fun. All right, when Mayor Vaughn taunts Hoopa about proving the size of the great white shark in their waters, which publication does he say Hoopa wants to get his name in? Again, that's a little long-winded. Let's try it again. When Mayor Vaughn taunts Hoopa about proving the size of the great white shark in their waters, which publication That would be a magazine for you youngsters out there. Does he say Hoopa wants to get his name in? Yeah, that one could be a little bit challenging for some of you out there as well. And feel free to cheat. It's okay. I don't mind at all. That's what the internet was made for. You can ask Chat GPT or whatever the hell it is. All right. So let's move into, I think this is number 9 on our list of the 10 things that make Jaws great. It's so sad that I not keep up with the numbers on all of these. I told you get what you pay for. So let's go ahead and talk about the thing that makes Jaws so fascinating to me as a fan of movies, film making of, and all that fun stuff. And that is the behind the scenes making of Jaws and all that went with it. I will tell you, if for some reason you were in an alternate universe and you had never seen Jaws or didn't know what it had become, the cultural phenomenon that it has become, if I had just told you about the making of the movie and everything that went into it, you would be standing there in front of me going, oh yeah, that movie must have bombed horribly with all of that going against it. And while I'm not going to go into a deep dive on the making of Jaws, there is a great documentary. I believe it's called The Shark is Broken. I think it's on YouTube or it's on somewhere. You can find it. But if you're really interested to hear all the details about the making of this movie, it's absolutely incredible. I know they did a play. I actually went and saw a version of it here in Charleston called The Shark is Broken. And it focuses on the 3 main characters while they're waiting for the movie to be filming on and off set and all that stuff. But I swear, if somebody made a movie of the making of Jaws, I would be there day one, money in hand. Because as I mentioned, it's incredible how it even got made to begin with, that and then that it became what it was. I know I'm dragging things out here. Where should we start? The fact again that Spielberg wanted to shoot this on water, which everybody told him not to, because filming on the ocean is a challenge. And he found that out, especially at Martha's Vineyard, because he would have to deal with, I think there was an interview with Richard Dreyfuss where he talked about how they would be ready to film and they would have everything set up. And then all of a sudden there would be a sailboat in the distance that would come through. And nowadays they could just, use CGI and erase that. But then they had to wait. They had to wait the whole time for that damn thing to go out of frame before they could start filming again. Also, they were at the mercy of the sea. I think the Orca sank once and it almost ruined the camera systems. I think one of the cinematographers risked his life to save the film. That's dedication right there. So the conditions were never the same. 2 days in a row, you would have rain, you would have hot weather, you'd have sunny weather, it would get cold because the shoot took so long. It was supposed to take, I think, the movie was originally supposed to take 52 days to film, and that ballooned to 155 days. So they were in Martha's Vineyard for a very long time. Keep in mind that Richard Dreyfuss was a young, arrogant actor who was chasing after skirts, and Robert Shaw was an alcoholic. So I'm sure Martha Vineyard was quite the playground for those two characters. But yes, the shoot took longer. It went over budget. Most thought that this was going to be Spielberg's last film. Even he thought that. The crew was getting anxious to get the hell out of there. That's why Steven Spielberg started a tradition with this film for 2 reasons. He left prior to the final shot of the film because he thought the crew was going to throw him into the water. And obviously he didn't want to do that. And secondly, as he said in many interviews, even to this day, he doesn't like to go into the ocean because he knows them sharks are out there waiting to get their revenge for Jaws. So, yeah, it was a very complicated and difficult shoot. As I mentioned with the water, they had built Bruce the shark, the mechanized shark. It worked fine in California in the freshwater tanks that they were using. So the script had many instances where you get to see the shark. Apparently in the original version, if it would have been filmed the way it was supposed to, you'd have seen a lot of that fake shark, which I absolutely love, and I don't care who says it looks fake. I love it. I wish it looked fucking faker. But at any rate, they took it out to the ocean, and when they first put it into the water, all of the electrical circuits mixed with that salt water, and it stopped working. So that's why they call that making of film, The Shark is Still Broken, because I think Dreyfuss and Scheider, one of them in their interviews, would say they would be out on their boat, the Orca, getting ready for their scene, and they would hear someone come across and go, "The shark is broken." the shark is broken. And they knew they weren't going to get anything filmed that day. So again, another huge obstacle. You're making a movie about a killer shark in which you cannot really get the killer shark to work. Which is, again, I bring back the barrels. Amazing directing choice to use the barrels, to use the underwater point of view shots from the shark, and will mix with the final great thing about this movie that creates a lot of tension and suspense and horror by not even seeing anything. Your imagination takes over in a lot of places in Jaws. But you also have as I mentioned, the infighting between Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss. Now, there are multiple conflicting rumors about that, whether it was a real animosity towards each other. I know Richard Dreyfuss says he has aged. He's been very complimentary of Robert Shaw and said that he was a wonderful gentleman as long as he was sober. But he did push his buttons and he tried to get a reaction out of him. Dreyfuss would say that was because that's what their characters were. They were sort of antagonists to each other. So that's why he did it. Maybe Shaw just didn't like Dreyfuss and was picking on. They were different generations of people. You know, Robert Shaw came from sort of that World War II generation, whereas Dreyfuss was young. I think he was in his 20s when he's coming out, kind of the hippie generation. So yeah, they were sort of at odds, and they were always having to deal with little fights between the two of them in order to keep things going. I think at one point, Robert Shaw, again, an alcoholic, and Richard Dreyfuss took one of his flasks or maybe a bottle of booze and just threw it overboard, and that did not end well for Richard Dreyfuss. And you also get the fact that the script was still being worked on as they were filming the movie. They would film during the day, and then Spielberg and Carl Gottlieb, and as I mentioned, other people would come in and they would tinker on the next few scenes and try to get them straightened out. I think the Indianapolis scene, I don't know how many rewrites they did on that, but it was this long, I don't know how many pages it was, but it was started out as this long script, and it went on and on and on, and they had someone else kind of whittle it down, and then Robert Shaw got the final version and was like, no, this is way too long. So he worked on it and whittled it down to the epic scene that we get there. So for all of us nowadays, you look at budgets and everything like that, and what destroys movies, all the simplest things now that bring movies down, an actor saying the wrong thing on social media. Thank God there was no social media back then, or this movie would have failed. But you think about what it went through. I mean, you got script rewrites, you got actors at each other's throats, you got problems with cameras and shooting, and the shark's not working. This movie should have failed. And instead it became, like I said, a cultural phenomenon, the highest grossing movie of the time, and it set the precedent for summer blockbusters. So an amazing, like I said, if you ever get a chance to watch any behind the scenes stuff with Jaws, go watch it. I did tell you that the shark is broken. That's probably the best one that I've seen. It also has some cool stuff with some extra footage from some of the scenes. The Kittner scene where he gets killed was a little more bloodier. And then they had this one. It was really good. God, it was so good. I wish they'd have kept it in, but I don't know. Should I give it away? Well, when the lifeguard in the pond, the shark grabs him, and the shark swims away and he goes right past Michael Brody. Well, originally they had the actor in the shark's mouth and he's like half dead, and he kind of pushes Michael Brody out of the way so he doesn't get ate. But it is really cool looking, so definitely go check all that stuff out. It's fun. Oh, I almost missed it.
Shark!
It's the Trivia Shark again. How are you doing, Trivia Shark? And I will say, yes, I have miscounted. But damn it, I'm going to do every fucking one of these questions. So for this question, when Hoopa speculates that the shark is a 20-footer, what does Quint correct the size to? Again, when Hoopa speculates that the size of the shark is a 20-footer, what does Quint correct the size to? We have reached the end of our list of the 10 things that make Jaws great. And this one, I mean, come on. You know what this one is. If you haven't guessed this one yet, then you don't know Jaws. But of course, one of the greatest things about Jaws is the music by legendary composer John Williams, frequent collaborator of Steven Spielberg, multiple Oscar winner, who gives us one of the most basic and simple two-note rhythms that will scare the shit out of you, especially if you're in any kind of, I don't know, the ocean, a lake, a swimming pool. If you're in your bathtub and I started playing dun 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 dun, you're probably going to jump out of your bathtub for fear that shark is going to pop out. But yes, it's legendary. And actually, Spielberg wasn't sure about the score until he heard it played with the movie, and then he was convinced, yes, John Williams, you are a genius, and I will have you be the composer for most, if not all, of my movies. But yeah, it's a simple score. Again, it scares the hell out of you. But the rest of the score is amazing as well. There are references to characters in the music. You get the Spanish lady song anytime Quint's out there. Everybody's got a little different tune for them. And then I like how it changes from the beginning of the movie, which is a solid horror movie. That's why you get the dun dun. And that's what keeps you on edge, to when we get out to the open sea where it's more of an adventure film. You can tell where the music really picks up to become an adventure film type movie where it's more grandiose, it's a little louder, there's more orchestra around. Again, it's got character themes in it, so you kind of get drawn in that way, as John Williams is known to do. What a brilliant, brilliant man. It's going to be a sad, sad day when he passes away. But yeah, he has left an amazing mark on cinema, and he is, I don't know, is he the reason that Jaws is so scary? He might be. It's neck and neck with him and Spielberg, because if you don't have dun dun, I don't know if that movie works the same. So what a brilliant decision to make. And yeah, of course the music is something that makes Jaws great. Hell, John Williams' music makes just about every movie great. Speaking of great, I think I see a great white shark. Is it?
Shark!
No, it's the trivia shark. He has snuck up on us again. All right, are you ready? I'm ready. Here we go. Play along with me, everybody. We're all in this together at this point. This feels like we're out on the ocean in a drifting, sinking boat here. All right, during Quint's Indianapolis speech, how does he describe the eyes of a shark? Again, you better get this one. During Quint's Indianapolis speech, how does he describe the eyes of a shark? All right, so unfortunately, we have reached the end of our journey through the greatest things about Jaws. How do you feel about this list? Do you agree with them? Disagree? Are there some that I didn't put on there that you would like to add? Please let me know in the comments. You can get in touch with me on social media at Cinematic Traveler Pod on Instagram. That's probably the best way to do it. I have an email address, thecinematictravelerpod@gmail.com. And again, like I said, the comments and everything. And wait, oh my God, it's back again.
Shark! The shark!
Here is a final bonus question, but not really, because there's one more, because the host of the show is an idiot. All right. What does Brody say as he shoots the air tank in the shark's mouth? Come on, you know this one. What does Brody say as he shoots the air tank in the shark's mouth? Oh, that's legendary. If you don't get that, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of you. Whew. Oh, man, I am glad that we got that trivia shark out of the way, because it's very rare that they will come back so quickly. Oh, no!
Shark! The shark!
That's right. This is it. This is the final bonus question. Oh, man, how did I mess that up? Okay, this is the final one. I promise. I swear this is the last one. Are you ready? This is easy and challenging all at once. And it's a simple question. What is the very last line of the movie? Again, what is the very last line of the movie? And that is the very last trivia question of this episode. I do want to thank Killian H. Gore. I know he doesn't know this, but I am using his book. I got this on Amazon. It's the Unauthorized Jaws Quiz book. So yeah, if you want to go check that out, it's got a lot of questions on it. There were some where, even as many times as I've seen the movie, I was like, damn, what is the answer to that question? So I did want to give him credit and let you know that that's there. I would put some kind of link, but I don't know how to do that. So we have reached the end of this fun little episode. I hope you had a good time. Go out and watch Jaws, celebrate the 50th anniversary of this film at some point this year, because again, it is legendary. It is an important film in cinematic history. It's an important film in Steven Spielberg's history. Plus, come on, you get to hang out with Quint for a couple of hours. That's worth it. I would have just loved to hang out with Quint, have a drink. Man, that would have been the best. But hopefully you are still here listening, because if I did, that means I did something right. So if you could please follow, subscribe, rate the show, I'd appreciate it. I will be doing a review this weekend coming up. I think this weekend is 28 years later. Looking forward to that. Another horror movie. You know, I do love horror movies. So you can come back. I'll have that out at the beginning of the week, Sunday or Monday, and we'll be back to our normal formula. Now, before I go, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch or listen to my show. I greatly appreciate you as an audience member. And I tell everyone, I know that I have the smartest and sexiest audience in all the podcast or YouTuber universe, and you never fail to live up to those high standards. Of course, this trivia contest in this episode might test the theory that you are a smart audience. Nah, of course you are. You listening to me, you got to be smart. Now, as you are traveling around on this blue and green ball, bouncing through the cosmos, trying to avoid pesky trivia sharks, I need you to do one thing for me. Go out and do that voodoo that you do so well.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies.